Princess Diana's Mercedes S280 didn't have stability control the Mercedes had invented 8 years earlier. Paul Walker's Porsche Carrera GT lacked basic safety systems that cost €300. JFK's Lincoln Continental had zero reinforcement that was standard in European cars. Tupac's BMW was missing bulletproof glass that was available but not offered. These aren't conspiracy theories, these are documented safety features that existed, were affordable, but manufacturers chose not to install. They literally chose profit over protecting lives. And here's what should terrify you. The same calculations that killed these icons are being made about your car right now. Features that could save your family tonight are sitting in corporate spreadsheets marked unnecessary cost. One of them costs €50 and could prevent 40% of fatal crashes, but it's not in your car. August 31st, 1997. The Mercedes S280 carrying Princess Diana enters the Pont de l'Alma tunnel at approximately 65 miles per hour. The driver loses control. The car spins, hits a pillar. Diana dies from internal injuries that were survivable with one difference: if the car hadn't lost control in the first place. Here's what Mercedes doesn't want you to remember. They invented Electronic Stability Program, or ESP, in 1987, 8 years before Diana's death. By 1995, it was available on the S-Class, but it was a €2,500 option that barely anyone ordered because Mercedes didn't explain its importance. The actual cost to Mercedes? €500 per vehicle. The French investigation concluded that if the car had ESP, the initial loss of control wouldn't have occurred. At 65 miles per hour, with the driver's overcorrection, ESP would have automatically applied individual wheel brakes, preventing the spin. No spin, no pillar impact, no fatal injuries. Diana would have lived for the sake of €500 in parts Mercedes were too greedy to make standard. But here's the disgusting part. After Diana's death, Mercedes suddenly made ESP standard on all S-Class models. They knew it would save lives. They had the technology. They just waited for the world's most famous woman to die before they acted. Her death became their marketing opportunity for safety features they should have included years earlier. Internal Mercedes documents from 1994 show executives discussing ESP standardization. The decision? Optional equipment maintains higher profit margins while allowing safety-conscious buyers to self-select. Translation? Let rich people buy safety while everyone else risks death. Diana's car was a rental. Nobody thought to tick the ESP box. She died for corporate profit margins. If you're disgusted by how manufacturers use celebrity deaths to finally implement safety they've been withholding, smash that subscribe button, because I'm about to expose 6 more preventable tragedies that changed nothing until famous people died. November 30th, 2013. Paul Walker's Porsche Carrera GT spins out of control at 45 miles per hour, not even highway speed, and crashes into a tree and light pole. The car explodes. Walker and driver Roger Rodas burn alive. The cause? A car designed to be pure by deleting basic safety systems that were industry standard. The 2005 Porsche Carrera GT had no stability control, no traction control, no electronic assists whatsoever. Porsche marketed this as pure driving experience and connection to the road. The reality? They saved €400 per car by deleting systems that Ferrari and Lamborghini were installing as standard. Here's what Porsche knew but ignored. The Carrera GT was notorious for snap oversteer. Its mid-engine layout and massive power made it inherently unstable at the limit. Professional racing drivers called it treacherous, yet Porsche sold it to wealthy amateurs with zero electronic safety nets. They prioritized driving purity over human life. The investigation showed Rodas lost control on a gentle curve at moderate speed. With stability management, which Porsche had been installing on 911 since 2000, the system would have detected the rear stepping out and corrected it instantly. No spin, no tree impact, no fire. Walker would have finished the charity event and gone home to his daughter. Porsche's internal emails from 2003 show engineers recommending PSM, or Porsche Stability Management, for the Carrera GT. The response from marketing? Dilutes the hardcore appeal to collectors. They literally chose hardcore appeal over preventing deaths. After Walker died, suddenly every Porsche has stability management standard. His death was their safety wake-up call. Except they were already awake, just counting money. November 22nd, 1963. President Kennedy's Lincoln Continental SS-100X travels through Dealey Plaza. The fatal shot enters because the car has zero structural reinforcement that was already standard in European luxury cars. The American automotive industry's arrogance about safety killed a president. Mercedes-Benz had been reinforcing B-pillars and roof structures since 1959. Volvo was pioneering integrated safety cages. European manufacturers understood that structural integrity saved lives. The Lincoln Continental? It was a style-first convertible with the structural integrity of cardboard. The Secret Service requested reinforcement. Ford executives declined, citing weight concerns and cost. The cost for proper B-pillar reinforcement and partial fixed roof structure? $2,000 in 1963 money, about €200 in today's manufacturing costs. Ford was selling the Continental for $7,000. They couldn't spare $2,000 to protect the President of the United States because it would hurt their profit margins on the flagship model. Here's what forensic automotive engineers determined decades later. With proper B-pillar reinforcement and a partial fixed roof, still allowing the convertible experience JFK wanted, the trajectory of the fatal shot would have been blocked or deflected. The president would have survived. Ford knew about European safety advances. They chose style over substance. The bitter irony? After JFK's assassination, the Secret Service had another Continental built with full armor and reinforcement, proving it was always possible. They just needed a dead president to justify the expense. Every subsequent presidential limo has had the reinforcement that could have saved Kennedy. Ford learned nothing except how to capitalize on tragedy. September 7, 1996. Tupac Shakur sits in his BMW 750iL at a Las Vegas intersection. Shots fired from a Cadillac pierce the door and window. 4 bullets hit Tupac. He dies 6 days later. Here's what BMW doesn't advertise. They had bulletproof glass technology available but didn't offer it in the American market despite the violent 1990s. BMW's European catalogue in 1996 included protection package options for the 750iL. Bulletproof glass, reinforced doors, run-flat tires. Cost? Approximately $15,000. But BMW USA decided American customers wouldn't pay for protection features. This during the height of the East Coast West Coast hip-hop violence, when wealthy entertainers were obvious targets. The glass that failed to protect Tupac was standard automotive safety glass, designed to shatter into small pieces. The bullets passed through like it was paper. BMW's protection glass, already available in Europe for politicians and executives, would have stopped 9mm rounds completely. Tupac would have driven away unharmed. Here's the criminal negligence. BMW knew about violence targeting wealthy Americans. They had requested for armored vehicles. Their response? Special order only with 12-month wait and 200% markup. They'd made protection impossible to obtain unless you were a government official. Tupac's BMW was leased 2 weeks before the shooting. Even if he'd known about protection options, he couldn't have gotten them. After Tupac's death and similar violence, suddenly BMW USA started offering security vehicles. They had the technology all along. They just needed dead celebrities to create demand. They turned murder into a marketing opportunity for features they should have made accessible. September 30th, 1955. James Dean's Porsche 550 Spider collides head-on with a Ford Tudor. Dean's chest is crushed by the solid steering column, a piece of medieval engineering that had safer alternatives since the 1930s. He was dead on arrival, killed by corporate refusal to implement existing safety technology. General Motors had patents for collapsible steering columns from 1934. Chrysler experimented with them in the 1940s. By 1955, the technology was mature and cost approximately $5 to implement, about €50 in today's money. Porsche's 550 Spider cost $7,000. They couldn't include a $5 part that would have saved their most famous customer. The solid steering column in Dean's Porsche was essentially a steel spear pointed at the driver's chest. In any frontal impact, it would punch through the ribcage. Engineers knew this. They had solutions. But collapsible columns were seen as unnecessary complexity for sports cars where weight savings mattered. Dean's impact was at approximately 55 miles per hour, survivable with modern standards. The crushing chest injury was entirely from the steering column. With a collapsible design that telescoped on impact, he would have had broken ribs, maybe internal bruising, but would have lived. Porsche knew this because they had seen the GM patents. They chose 2 pounds of weight savings over safety. The disgusting aftermath? Collapsible steering columns didn't become mandatory until 1968 in the US. 13 years and thousands of deaths later. Every manufacturer knew they saved lives. They waited for a government mandate rather than implementing voluntarily. Dean's death changed nothing except selling more posters. June 29, 1967. Jayne Mansfield's Buick Electra slams into the rear of a semi-trailer. The car slides underneath, shearing off the roof. Mansfield and 2 others die instantly. The children in the backseat survive. This gruesome death was completely preventable with a simple bar that already existed. Underride guards, bars that prevent cars from sliding under trucks, were invented in the 1940s. By 1967, Sweden, Denmark, and Norway had made them mandatory. Cost to implement? Approximately €100 per truck in today's money. The American trucking industry lobbied against them, claiming unnecessary expense and weight. Mansfield's Buick hit the trailer at approximately 50 miles per hour. Without an underride guard, it slid underneath like a wedge. The impact point was at windshield level, causing instant decapitation. With a proper guard, a simple steel bar, the car would have hit at bumper level. Airbags didn't exist yet, but the crumple zones would have absorbed the impact. Mansfield would have survived with injuries. The trucking industry knew about underride deaths. They had data showing hundreds of similar fatalities annually. Their calculation? €100 per truck times millions of trucks was too expensive compared to lawsuit settlements. They literally calculated that paying for deaths was cheaper than preventing them. After Mansfield's horrific death made headlines, suddenly underride guards became mandatory in 1968. They're now called Mansfield bars in the industry. Her decapitation became the marketing push for safety features that should have been required decades earlier. The trucking industry needed a celebrity corpse to do the right thing. These celebrity deaths happened decades ago, but the same corporate calculations are killing people right now. Features that exist, cost almost nothing, but aren't standard because manufacturers are waiting for the next famous death to force their hand. Blind spot monitoring costs €200 to implement. It prevents 23% of lanes-changing accidents, yet it's optional on most cars under €30,000. How many people died today because they couldn't afford the package option? Automatic emergency braking costs €300. It prevents 40% of rear-end collisions. It's still optional on base models. Mercedes charges €1,500 for it as part of a driver assistance package. Here's one that should enrage you: rear seatbelt reminders. Front seats have had them since the 1990s. The technology to add them to rear seats costs €10. €10. Yet they're not mandatory, and most manufacturers don't include them. Children die every week because parents don't realize their kid unbuckled. €10 could save them. Manual door releases in electric vehicles. Tesla Model 3 rear doors have emergency releases hidden under the mat. In a fire, passengers can't escape. Cost to make them obvious? €0. It's just placement. Yet Tesla hides them because visible manual releases disturb the minimalist aesthetic. People have died burning in Teslas because they couldn't find the hidden release. Side airbags save 37% of deaths in side impacts. Cost €400 per car. Still optional on many base models. Pedestrian detection prevents 35% of pedestrian fatalities. Cost €250. Optional. Adaptive headlights that turn with steering prevent 10% of night accidents. Cost €300. Optional. Every one of these features exists, is proven, is affordable. Manufacturers are just waiting for enough bodies to pile up. These 7 cases prove one disgusting truth. Manufacturers know exactly what safety features could save lives. They know exactly how much they cost, and they deliberately chose profit over protection until famous corpses forced their hand. Princess Diana died for €500 in stability control. Paul Walker died for €400 in traction management. JFK died for €200 in roof reinforcement. Tupac died for glass BMW had but wouldn't sell. James Dean died for a €50 steering column. Jayne Mansfield died for a €100 steel bar. Thousands die today for features sitting in option packages. The pattern is always the same. Engineers develop safety technology. Accountants calculate costs versus lawsuit settlements. Marketing decides it's optional equipment. People die. Eventually, someone famous dies. Suddenly, it becomes standard with great fanfare about commitment to safety. The manufacturers become heroes for finally doing what they could have done years earlier. Every safety feature in your car exists because someone died for its absence. Seatbelts became standard after thousands died. Airbags became mandatory after decades of preventable deaths. Crumple zones, safety glasses, collapsible columns, all written in blood while manufacturers counted coins. But here's what's different now. We know. We have the internet. We can expose these calculations. We can demand that safety features be standard, not optional. We can shame manufacturers who make blind spot monitoring a €2,000 package when it costs them €200. We can refuse to buy from companies that treat our lives as acceptable losses. The next time a manufacturer makes safety optional, remember Princess Diana dying for €100 to €500 in technology Mercedes already had. Remember Paul Walker burning alive because Porsche wanted purity. Remember that every safety feature you take for granted exists because someone's death finally embarrassed a corporate into action. Which missing safety feature scares you most? What optional equipment should be mandatory? Share your stories below. Every comment is evidence that we won't accept profit over lives anymore. And if this video opened your eyes to how manufacturers calculate your life's value, subscribe now for more automotive truth.